a little slow to go, hey, we are live. The broadcast is live. The audience is listening. Good evening. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. And we are in the Critical Blast Caverns once more, bringing to you another live stream with some comic book creators. And tonight we have Buddy Lord and Xeviuss, the brilliant minds behind Sins of the Fae. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having us on. It's yeah, we've been busy. We're launching pretty soon, so yeah, we got lots to talk about.
Yep. I am here after another 14-hour day at work.
Oh, is that all? What'd you do with the other 10?
That's right, man.
It was a lazy day today, so I took it easy on myself. I slept. I actually had food. There was some social in there. I know. I'm taking it. I'm a complete slovenly lullard there.
You have to have a work-life balance, man. And honestly, all these people who are just putting in 10 hours a day, they're owing their company another 2 hours. Where's their balance? It's just not fair. It's not fair.
Well, they're all out protesting right now.
Yeah, right.
Oh, be serious. They don't have jobs. Yes, I said it.
Yeah. There was a protest.
And everybody just logged off the stream. No.
There was one. I was 1 block away from my house. I live downtown. There's a big one. Shut down traffic just about an hour and a half ago. So good for those guys. Slowed me down.
I drove downtown to my local comic shop and I saw a good 7 people walking with signs. And they're just walking, carrying their signs. And I went in and says, I saw the protest go by. It's like, yeah, the big show's over in St. Louis. That's where, the windows will get busted and the buildings will get burned down. Out here in the burbs, we're kind of more subdued. It's like, hey, this is how we feel. Cool. Understood.
Oh, good. That's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be.
I saw a hilarious picture earlier. I think it was somewhere in California, but it was a picture of, looked like, I think they call them ODP. They're basically Green Berets sitting around, like protecting the monuments and that kind of, historical assets, most likely, of a city. And all the libs in the comments were just I hate them, everybody should shoot them. Look at all those people walking around with guns. And I thought it was hilarious because there was literally a homeless dude in the corner of the building on the picture. So it's pretty obvious these guys aren't messing with anything as long as you don't loot or pillage. If you're not a Viking, they're cool.
Well, in fact, before I even came on the stream here, I was going through Twitter because that's all I ever do in my life now. and Tom King is posting up pictures of these armed militia-looking guards. He's like, they don't have papers. They don't have names on their things. No one knows who these people are. This is horrible. This is terrible. This is the downfall of society. I was like, I was unaware that you needed to know who anybody was.
Yeah. Sure they want to hold everybody accountable. But you know what, Tom King? Nobody's holding you accountable for that piss poor writing.
Well, the fans held him accountable for it.
True.
Yeah, but DC kept printing him. They keep giving him jobs. These guys fail up.
Yeah. Every 2 weeks we have the LCS of the Roundtable come on, and Michael Tierney is one of the guys who has a shop in Little Rock, Arkansas. And he just talks about, the whole thing that pretty much killed the whole Batman line was Batman number 50. Was it 50 or 75? It was the wedding that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And the fact is that nobody told the comic shops what the storyline was going to be until the last second. So they had already ordered all these non-returnable copies of what was supposed to be the event of the century. And nobody wanted them the day before it came out. And it was told that, she leaves him at the altar. They don't get married. Nobody wants to buy that.
Yeah.
When you bought The Death of Superman, by God, he died in the book. You knew he was coming back, but he didn't near die in that book. You had to wait a year. Supergirl died. Everybody wanted that.
You had to buy all the special poly bag enclosed. It was like red bag, black bag, blue bag.
Yes.
Different.
I actually opened my black bag the day Christopher Reeve died, so that I could get the armband and wear it.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Totally worth it to do that. So, Sins of the Fae, that is the new series. Now, I'm a sucker for fairy tales and fables and that kind of thing. I've got the big omnibus of fables sitting back here behind me. I've got a copy of Grimm's somewhere back on this shelf of research material. So I love fairy stories, and especially when they're referred to as the Fae, like in Dangerous Little Fucking Monsters and not Tinkerbell. So what are we seeing in Sins of the Fae?
You are seeing the next great fairy tale. That's what I want it to be. I actually just put up a blog post called The Next Great Fairy Tale on bladeknight.com. I encourage anybody to go read that. And it does basically give a synopsis of the story and tells, it's a little bit of a forward. I was a big fan of fairy tales too, in the sense that they are survival stories about hope. That's a rewording of the famous quote by Jack Zipes, who was an expert in fairy tales. Yes, they have those. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've always taken that to be an interesting and it's one of those frosty kind of statements that you can take at a very first glance, and it's interesting. But if you really think about it, it's pretty awesome, because that means a fairy tale can be anything. Can be the actual implements of it, the pieces of it can be anything, as long as it is a story of survival and hope. And if you think about it, doesn't that fit a heroic tale, to the T? Campbell's tales. Everybody talks about the diminishment of the Campbell philosophy. The hero of 1,000 faces. How that's just over. That's too. We have too much of that now. It's all deconstruction. It's all anti-villains, anti-this, anti-that. This is a return to old-fashioned storytelling. This is about hope. It's about heroes. It's about humor, and it's about family.
And it's about fairies.
Yeah.
And fairies.
Committed sins.
Yes. Yeah. It actually started. I have a forward in the book, but I'll release a little bit of that information. I went on a date with my girlfriend at the time. He took me to the second Twilight movie, and I hated it. For Stephanie, sorry, but I hate your movies.
You proved you loved her.
Yeah. So, but we went there, and I thought, why do these things glow? Why do vampires glow? And my girlfriend had this long explanation, and I was like, no, I think they were supposed to be fairies, but her editor told her vampires sell better. And I said, you know what? I want to write a book where the fairies can kick a vampire's butt.
Well, if you watched True Blood or read the novels, there's always been this sort of a contract between vampires and fairies that a lot of people have played with. So
yeah.
Maybe they were vampire fairies.
So I read it could be. I remember
if your vampire effect can be replicated by going to Bath and Body Works, then you're not a vampire, you're a male prostitute. But what do I know?
So, but the story is more or less about Nikki Caramore. She's got a fairy tale existence, in that she has kind of that happily ever after life. She's got this big plot of land, beautiful house. She has the protection of her goddess Jord. She's a Viking girl. She has a scion of Yggdrasil, the world tree. And so she is she's got two baby girls, Adira and Kaylee, and then she's got this guy CJ that helps her take care of the land she's on. She's pretty good. She's doing pretty well. And then one day she wakes up, she's cursed. She doesn't really know what to do with it. She kind of freaks out. She starts getting these really bad visions of her family being killed, of her friend CJ being hunted down, and of her being, stalked and disappearing. And she doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what to happen. So she has to confront herself and a past that she ran away from, and find out what's going on, find out who's coming after her. And, the way that I put it is that everything in this world has a cost, and the price of her happily ever after has come due.
Okay. You mentioned she's a Viking girl. What era are you setting? Is this a modern setting, or is this a?
Yeah, this is a modern setting, and this is like an alternate world. is what I would consider it. But I wanted to create a place where like you have the Fae, which are basically any mythology you can think of. I consider Fae. Any like, demographically based mythology, Japanese, Celtic, Norwegian, Native American, any of it, right? They're all different Fae. There are 7 worlds that kind of surround our world in a kind of temporal axis. And they, in order to visit one another, have to cross through our world, which they call the crossroads. So it's like the bridge. Like our world is like the bridge. And this is what's happened is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're Midgard, of course. We're the central hub of all of it.
Yeah. And so now what's happened is, because all of these races know each other, there are also like certain night races like vampires, zombies, werewolves. Everything's there for a specific reason. There's reasons why everything exists. There's a lot of world building gone on in the world itself, or in the entire story itself and the narrative. So, but more or less, all that at one time, there's no invisible walls, or somebody doesn't, the humans don't know about the vampire. No, they all know about each other. Okay. And so they've all built countermeasures in history with each other for hundreds of years. So there's a lot of, different kind of racism. Real you know what I mean?
Real racism. You are truly a different race. You're not the human race. You are something else.
Exactly. It's like, the humans think that there's a human guard called the Silver Cross that think that the Fae shouldn't be allowed in their realm because they think the magic is limiting their ability to evolve.
Okay. So do you pull on any of the traditional Fae material? I mean, do you have the Seelie and the Unseelie cords? You still got King Oberon?
I do, but it's a different way. There's Seelie and Unseelie, and the way that it works is I don't call them Seelie and Unseelie. It's you have the true and the forgotten. And the true are the ones that, like, what happens is they have a gathering after a certain amount of life. They have to come to one of the lords. They go to one of the lords and they talk to them. And they say, okay, well, the true are, do you want to accept your role as a Fae? Do you want to accept your role as a shade elf? Do you want to accept your role as a goblin? Do you want to accept your role as whatever? And those that say yes get all the things that go with it. They get all the abilities, the powers, and everything else. And they live like almost immortally. Okay. But the forgotten don't. The forgotten get the span of a human's life. But the difference is the ones who are true can only, like, they have to ask to travel between the worlds. They're stuck on their world, their realm, and to be traveled through the crossroads or to any other place, they have to ask the lords, get permission, all that stuff. The ones who are forgotten can go anywhere they want, do anything they want, learn anything they want, but they only get a human's life to do it.
So you trade immortality for freedom of movement.
Yep.
I wouldn't do it. I was like, this place looks pretty good. Okay, so titularly, I want to say titularly, but people take that wrong. But there are sins involved here, is what we're hearing. So I would have to be asking, why that title?
Well, because what it really ties into is it's supposed to be to make you think about a very popular saying, sins of the father, but it's sins of the Fae. Okay. Because if you notice in everything that I've been saying, the father's been missing. The husband of Nikki and the father of the girls is one of the lords of the Fae realms. His name is Owen Tiernan Summerly. He is based on the mythological figure of the huntsman. Okay. And he disappeared 15 years ago, and they don't know why. He said, this has got to happen. I got to go by. And what happened was one of the daughters was really sick. She was, was dying, and they couldn't find out why. She just was getting sicker every day, and he couldn't take it. So he did something. He basically reached into, kind of think like fated string, fated world, whatever. He reached into, sorry, my neighbor's dog is barking. But he reached into the fated world and he pulled this sickness out of her. But when he did that, the people or creatures that were looking for him found him. That used so much of an ability, they found him. And so instead of bringing that to his family, he left.
Okay. That's a common trope of leaving to protect the family, and it works. I've seen it in a couple of books. In fact, shill time. Critical Blast is not just a .com. We are also a publishing house, and our first young adult hardcover novel, Bulletproof Origins, by Stephen J. Mitchell, touches on that very trope because Cody Haywood's father is missing since he was an infant, and it has something to do with the fact that Cody Haywood wakes up on his 16th birthday bulletproof and impervious to harm. He lives in a world full of superheroes, so he decides to become one. Unfortunately, Cody has the attention span of a ferret on pixie sticks and relies on his friends to keep him focused so that he can survive the terrorist onslaught of those who would like to be bulletproof themselves, because if you have bulletproof suicide bombers, you can reuse them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our shill. It's linked in the description below if you would like to go out to Amazon and purchase that. And above that link in the description below, you will see a link to Blade Knight Comics so that you can go out there and find out more about Sins of the Fae until such time as your Indiegogo goes live, and then, obviously go there and back it. So Indiegogo backing comics, everyone seems to be doing it. When I say everyone, I'm talking about people who are talented enough to put out a comic but haven't been published anywhere yet. And a few people who shouldn't be in comics at all and quickly find that out the hard way.
Yep.
You guys are putting out some quality stuff. Xeviuss, I really, really like the line drawing that I'm seeing here, and that's one of the reasons why I want to have you guys on, because comics is a visual medium, and if you're throwing out Tumblr art, you're not going to draw. You're not going to draw the crowd. You're putting out the more Jose Luis Garcia Lopez DC house style of the 70s and 80s. It's that kind of a realism comic book look to it that I'm attracted to that particular kind. So how did you get onto the book, Xeviuss?
Okay, so I'll start off by saying I actually don't do the line work. We've got a guy named he's at Hosan Art on Twitter, and Buddy's been working with him for probably close to a year. What my background is an art director and a creative director, and I've been a fine artist for 20 plus years. So I started doing some design. I've done typography and branding for a lot of multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies even. So Buddy found me one way or another on Twitter, and I did the Sins of the Fae word mark, and I think I got involved in Comicscape just about a year ago on Twitter. Got an account. And I want to elevate the quality of covers and the typography across the board and the production. So so Joe is doing the black and white stuff, and I've got a real tendency I'm told my colors are pretty out there compared to a lot of the other stuff. So I'm the colorist and designing. I'm doing production.
Can we bring some of those pictures up?
Sure, happy to. 1 second here. Yeah, in no particular order.
Because that is a very ornate logo you've got on there, and it's not overly ornate to the point where you can't read it, like the old English font where you're trying to get fancy and you're like, that's very fancy, but I can't read what you just typed. Sins of the Fae is easily readable. It's also not reproducible at all by any font set I've ever seen.
Well, true. I have to say, and I come off as a bit of a snob sometimes, but I am when it comes to typography. Like I studied it classically for 4 years, university, and 99% of the books that I'm seeing that are independent, people, they're artists. They think they can make a logo, but it's not a logo. All they're doing is picking a font. So for me, any typography is basically the same as it's art in itself, and it starts pencil and paper always. So I'm going to bring that up here.
There's a special.
I think that should number.
A special class of that has always fascinated me that I could never wrap my head about even trying to do. And you see it in things like the Dan Brown novels, where you see a word and then you turn it upside down and you see the same word.
Sure.
I don't know what that's called specifically. And then I was just totally blown away when Dan Brown, of course, had earth, wind, air, and water. Earth, Wind, Fire, and Water, and then you put them all together, and they made a whole totally different word when you put together like a puzzle piece.
Interesting.
I was totally freaked out by that.
Interesting. Well, see,
so here we
typography.
That is very, very cool. Got the Yggdrasil tree behind it.
Yeah, I mean, what typography should do, what a logo should convey, and that goes for a toothpaste brand on a shelf. That goes for a book, a movie, an accounting firm. It doesn't matter what it is, and I've done all those things. It should have. You should be able to tell what it is instantly, and should be giving a sense of it. So, I'd only known Buddy for a couple of days, and I was just doing some sketches. I'm pretty sure Buddy just probably Sharpies in my sketchbook, right? Just snapshots, basically scribbles.
I saw something. Yeah, I mean, you had some stuff, and I was like, I think this guy could make an actual logo, because what I had seen, I'm not artistically inclined, but I knew what I wanted, and I knew that what I had seen wasn't it. So when I saw what he had done, I'm like, I think you can do this, and he's like, yeah, I can do it. So
and I've done hundreds of corporate ones. I mean, for me, this was you described the story. I loved it from the get-go, and I would think that anybody glancing at this, like anybody anywhere, would get a sense of there's some fantasy to it, that it's on the dark side of that. Because we have the red of the blood. There's the tree that's the Yggdrasil in the story, and that's sort of foundation of it. That becomes a touchstone for the center part of the logo, and even the red of the sins is connecting into the letters below. So there's a lot to see, but it tells a story in itself.
Yeah, it's very cool. Now, I'm going to ask the embarrassing question.
Go.
Xeviuss, you've worked on multi-million-dollar corporate accounts. Buddy, you're coming in with an independent comic. How the hell do you afford a guy like this to do something for an indie comic? I mean, do you make him? Don't give me a dollar amount. I don't want to know that.
Okay.
Did you make him a partner of the book, or did you pay him up front and sell pop bottles or something?
Yes, pop bottles.
I think really the truth is he just wanted to do it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll give you the right answer. I've been doing corporate, and I'll tell you a dollar amount in the corporate world. $5,000 to $10,000 for a logo is quite normal, quite fair. Now, the industry's changed in the last 5 years. You can go to Fiverr and get a logo for $100. Probably get one for $20, and you can get logos.
You see for our corporate site, $35, Fiverr.
Yep. Well, there you go. See, so what was making me a lot of money 10 years ago, it's not there anymore. But more importantly, moving back and forth in San Diego, going to Comic-Con, and going to the Eisners, I'm seeing the quality go down. We can talk about the politics later of what's happening in the comic book industry, but I decided just about a year ago now, spring 2019, I was like, screw it, I want to get into this business because I can make it better. And to do that, I had to, I joined Twitter with one follower, and I'm like, I've got to get noticed here. I've got to do work, and I got to do it for whatever it takes to get noticed. So I was doing things for free. I was doing things for fun, and I've probably done 8 to 10 logos by now. I just work with whoever's there, and I'll take what you got, because I can bring you up. I think there's a lot of trust in this. If we make $100,000, I'm going to get a bonus. If we make $600,000, I'm going to get a bonus. I consider us basically business partners in this project. And for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to be putting my stuff out there, even if Buddy's doing another thing. I'll be on somebody's show. So it's win-win. It's not really about the dollars.
All right. So if you're listening to the replay on this, folks, and you're wanting to do a comic book, go hit @Xeviuss and work out a deal for your logo, because you'll have something that looks very sharp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. And it's the same thing. I've got a price that I've set for. I've been pretty busy doing commissions for people's YouTube channels for their banners, and I've got a price in mind. And if somebody's got a little more money, I'll try for it. If they don't have, if they got laid off work like this one guy, a month ago, we can sort it out. It sounds really cheesy, but being part of the community, I think, is important. So helping people out.
Now, see, one of the reasons I asked that in the first place was because I always like to hammer home for folks who are wanting to just jump into crowdfunding and make a comic without thought, is that unless you are an artist and a writer at the same time, then it's a lot easier to jump into a crowdfunding. But what a lot of people don't realize going into crowdfunding as a comic book writer is that all these projects you see that are just a writer, they're already starting out $3,000 to $6,000 in the hole because they had to pay an artist who's not partnered onto the book.
Right.
They just wanted to be paid up front for their work, and here you have it, now go publish it. And then they're risking whether or not they can actually get the book published after already investing that much into it. And a lot of the time, you know, they're only trying to hit $4,000 marks, which just is barely break even.
$4,000 wouldn't even begin to pay for this book.
No, this book's expensive.
All right. So what is going to be the goal on this book since it hasn't launched yet? What did we?
Well, no, I mean, I'm gonna put the book's gonna be for $20. We've talked about all this. The book's gonna be $20. It's gonna be 48 pages at first. We'll go all the way up to 100, but that'd be like a $200,000 stretch goal. Per page, you're looking at about $345.
Yep.
Okay, that's an ambitious stretch goal, 200,000.
So, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't expect that we'll get there. I mean, I'm just being completely honest. If we're just talking brass tacks, my estimation with, you know, being a brand new person, not having a YouTube, because frankly, I just don't have the time. I work about 70 hours a week, and I can't. So, you know, but I am able to, you know, afford the comic book. That's actually, we were going to come out in March, but we only had about 12 pages. And we were like, you know, that's just too few to say that we can do this by the end of the time. So we went back and just, you know, I just went to work and we just went to pages. And I think now we've got more like 28, you know, like 28 to 34, something like that.
Yep.
I mean, we actually have enough for 42 sides, so 42 pages. We've got another, but we have like 4 they're coming, and then we were storyboarding last night, and we're going to make another like 4 to 5. So it's going to be it'll be an easy 48 pages. This is a robust thing, because I had to learn. I've been writing prose for, I don't know, 15 years. I edited for 12 years. I've put a lot of books out under pseudonyms. I've published a lot of poetry, but I never done anything like this. I had to learn how to visually tell a story.
That is a trick too. I mean, you can't just. I know DC and Marvel. They're like, you know, hey, you just published, you know, some great YA material. Come over here and write, you know, Spider-Man or Wonder Woman.
And I think that's why you get the major amounts of exposition in a lot of the new writers. You know, like even like a Bendis, like he did detective novels before he came into comic books. You know, or like Remender, Snyder, all their styles are like, I mean, they just have just walls full of text. And my hope is that we don't have that. I want to be able to tell a story, and like, I want you to be able to tell what's going on just by looking at it and have the words complement it. And then that's going to be a different, you know, another layer. He calls it X calls it figure ground relationship, when you have the look and then you have extra layers. And then we added another layer on top of that, which is, in order to use magic, the girls have to speak in a language that is, we're calling the god tongue, since they're Viking girls. It's the language that Odin used and learned after he hung on the tree for 7 days.
Ah, okay. We do like to hang our gods on trees for some reason. I don't know why we do that.
Yeah, right. So
theme.
There's a lot of recurring themes if you look up mythology and religion and all that.
Oh yeah, my college thesis paper was a comparison between Prometheus and Christ.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, we have stories that repeat. Even Joseph Campbell, who we talked about already, you know, compares you know, the Christ figure to the Corn King or whatever it is. And I don't know. I think he might miss the mark on a few things, but he does know how a story is put together. So definitely getting that mark. So yeah. So who is this character? This is the this is your main character again. I forgot her name. I'm sorry.
Nikki Caramore.
Nikki, yes. I even asked for a picture of Nikki and the dragon for the title card, so I should know that.
Yeah, we wanted to make Nikki very beautiful, and it's kind of funny that you pretty much nailed Jose's style, or Joe Sanchez, that's his name, his style. He is from Mexico, so he has the style of the people you were talking about, as well as he's got a little bit of like a J. Scott Campbell when he wants to. He throws that in there, because when I got him, I said I want a manga Western hybrid, and this is what he came up with.
Well, it's beautiful stuff. I think Xeviuss, I did not notice that you had disappeared because I had the full screen on the picture there.
You're muted, X.
I can unmute him. Maybe I can, maybe I can't.
There he is.
Oh, their microphone isn't connected, it's telling me.
X, are you there?
Well, he'll pop in. Hello, Niobe, Rebel Gaming. Niobe's another comic book we had on here just a couple of days ago, doing the crowdfunding thing. And again, a similar art style, so it's another one I'm getting behind. I just, by the way, before we came on, talking about everybody's crowdfunding but yours. I'm sorry, that's very, very ill-mannered of me. But I just threw some money Billy Tucci's way because he's doing the Miss Fury crowdfunding with Dynamite Comics. So,
no, I don't mind. I think we all have to help each other.
We do. We really do. And the thing is, I don't make a comic at all. I'm just having fun talking to you guys. And I was supposed to be running a website, and somewhere along the way, I become a YouTube channel and book publisher. So, but Billy's going to be on our show sometime next week. So I'll be looking to announce that as he talked about Miss Fury. X, did you make it back yet?
He might need to, I don't know, you might need to remove him, or, because usually what happens in StreamYard, I call it like alternate, or when you have like a split dimension, in like books or something. X says, that's a first, very strange. He's like, I'm here, but I can't hear anything, is what he's saying in the private chat.
All right, well, I'm going to take you out, X. Boom, you're gone.
So hopefully he'll...
Let's see. Now I'm going to add him back and see if that helps. Otherwise, might have to disconnect and bring back. Okay, how about now, X? I'm going to say that's still a no. Okay.
I don't even see him.
he did a hard disconnect. He'll come back. Which is cool. Oh, and now he's back, and I have to do the re-add.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
I can hear you now. I don't know if he can.
It kicked me out. It kicked me out. I came back and then I couldn't hear you guys. That's
I
never
don't know
happened.
how I kicked you out. I was trying to click on the messages in the comments, but
StreamYard's got this weird thing.
It doesn't surprise me because this mouse has been like, I'll click on, Twitter is notorious for it, where I'll click on one tweet to see a link and it pulls up a tweet that wasn't even on the page. It was like scrolled past. I'm like, so my computer's haunted. I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries. No worries. What'd I miss? What are we doing?
Well, let's see.
He was talking about Billy Tucci.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Billy's going to be on the show next week. We were touting everybody's crowdfunding except yours, which is what we do. We get a crowdfunder on here, and then we talk about everybody else's stuff.
That's the way to do it. Yeah.
But Niobe was in the chat, and I was saying hi to him because he had commented to us, and he had been on here last week doing Niobe.
Oh, don't let me interrupt, but I love that. That's the book. I've talked to Buddy about it a number of times. That art is beautiful.
It is. It's very beautiful. It needs more attention from the community so that they can, see it and get behind it. Niobe, Peregrine, Wings of the Falcon, Sins of the Fae, you all have this very similar art style that complements each other. In fact, that's one of the things that I've had this long-standing dream for all the, I'm going to say Comicsgate, but I really for, crowdfunding in general, is that there could be some sort of overarching house. for God's sakes, don't trademark it and call it the Comicsgate House, because that just starts wars. But it would be, it would be a cool thing if, two characters from different publishers lived in the same universe and, could appear in books at special times. That's what made that is what really made comic books special to me, was the fact that they had this shared universe. And even, early DC comics and early Marvel comics, that wasn't truly the case. You'd buy a comic book that had, Human Torch and Submariner in it, but they were in separate stories. And it wasn't until, they both appeared in the same story that it was like, oh, wait, we've got gold here. We can interchange these characters and play with them together in the same sandbox.
Yep, exactly. Remember, even though it would never happen, you wouldn't want it to. But when you're a kid, if you imagined what would happen if, Jean-Luc Picard met Luke Skywalker, the Enterprise versus the Falcon.
Oh yeah, who would win versus Batman and Punisher?
That's right.
We've seen that one. But no, X. What you're missing out on here is the fact that the Emperor Palpatine did not die at the end of that third trilogy, and in fact, he is going to mutate even further until he needs armor. And not being able to trust clones, he's going to put brains inside of armor. He's going to call them Cylons, and eventually they're going to migrate towards Earth while the battle rages on in that galaxy far, far away, until the Galactica is the last one left that has to come forward. Now, the Galactica is, of course, going to make it to Earth, and with that technology, we're going to be able to build a Babylon 5 station way out there. Yeah, it's all tied together, man. It's all connected.
That's
a way better story than Ryan Johnson came up with.
Dude, I don't know. I'm 501st Legion. I've got Stormtrooper on mannequins, full size, around my house. I'm stock Star Wars all day, every day. So that's a good premise. I should go with that.
That's one of the things I love to do is just I used to take 1980s stories and just blend them together. It's like, gee, what kind of threat would it take for the A-Team and Knight Rider to come together and rescued by MacGyver? And fan fiction kind of stuff. But fan fiction, I will never knock, because fan fiction is what got me the writing gig. I showed you before we went on stream that I'm the author on the Destroyer series now, starring Remo Williams. And what got my foot in the door was they did a call for anthology stories, and I had just read a few of the newest Remo and Chun stories. It's like, I like this. I like the approach. I can see parallels in these characters that I'm getting. So I wrote this novella that took one of the Remo Williams villains and paired it with a villain from another universe whom I had to take all the trademarks off of. And I end up with Remo and Chun solving a murder in a very gothic kind of town that's guarded by a guy who dresses up like Dracula.
Okay, why not?
And it was fun, and it worked. And
I remember that movie.
The movie gets a lot of knocks, but if I had a product that what is it? If I had an intellectual property that somebody wanted an option for a movie and they put it up on the screen, I'd be looking at that sucker like, he looks nothing at all like the character I own, and that's not the story I wrote, but damn, I'm proud to see it up there.
Well, that's like, what is it? Lee Child with Jack Reacher, right? Jack Reacher is like 6'6", and who's he played by? He's played by,
Tom Cruise.
Is that? Tom Cruise, who's what, 5'6", 5'8"?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, and like Alan Moore too, when they did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, they said, how do you feel about it? He's like, well, how should I feel about it? Somebody came to me and said, we'd like to use the title of a book you wrote, and here's a bucket of money. So he's like, okay, fine.
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Just don't say that I made this movie and pay me. So, but fan fiction can be fun. I did try my hand at writing a comic book 20 years ago. God. And there was a guy who wanted to be a publisher, and I was like, well, you know what? I'll write a story for you. It was a 6-issue miniseries, and I was doing that panel to panel. And he had a great artist, Rajiv Golay from Nepal, who did some of the sample pictures. And I was like, yes, this is exactly what my characters look like. Let's start doing a story. He's like, will do, as soon as the publisher sends me money.
Yeah.
And guess where the brakes went on that project? And that's why I bring it up for the crowdfunding, is because, artists who aren't part of the, ownership project want paid, and they want paid up front. And
well, I mean, I don't know, I'm a capitalist, but I have, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, but I think that people should be paid for what they do. Both X and Joe put in a lot of marketing time. They put in a lot of other time. It's not it's not a contract or something, but I pay them a page rate, but they know, because I tell them all the time, I'm like, if this book makes over such and such amount, if it makes over the amount that, I need to produce it, I'm not going to pay myself. I'm going to pay them.
Sure.
And that's the way I look at it. It's like, okay, if
I've done similar projects. I never made over, what would have been enough to do that, but the promise was always there that, hey, if this becomes a success, I'm taking you guys with me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've looked at I market in outside of just like Twitter, and outside of, because I couldn't do YouTube, so I didn't have the time. So I've tried to create a lead magnet, do some other things. We've actually created, because this was based on a manuscript, I created light novel, or we made our first light novel, and we're actually using that as a lead magnet to get people in the mailing list, and then we're going to offer that to them, but I'm also going to put it on Amazon so that I can distribute it through some of the old channels that I remember through self-published days, like Book Barbarian, BookBub, a lot of those some of those mailing lists have hundreds of millions of people on it, and so if I get in there for $100, that'd be worth it, and it'll pay for itself. A lot of people don't realize that, like, you're doing your clothing, you don't want to do it. That's like, if you sell a shirt and all it does is pay for it, but then you put it on Facebook for, say, like $2, $5 for, a week or something, and you sell one shirt for $20, well, then you paid for a month worth of marketing in one shirt. And you're marketing not only the shirt, you're also marketing your IP. Yeah,
I've done a few of the Facebook ads, not enough to have noticed a return on it, but then again, I also wasn't selling a product, I was directing traffic. So I was looking for ad revenue, and there just wasn't. Ad revenue on a website is not a way to make money.
I mean, it's it's passive income. It's difficult. I mean, more what I'm going for is just audience. Give me as many leads as I can. Yeah, I understand that you're only going to keep 10 to 20% engaged from any amount that you grab, and that's why it needs to be as big as it can. I'm just going to keep grabbing it and keep going and keep building the list, and then I'm going to this time we may make I plan on 60 days we're going to make 25 grand. That's the number I want to hit for. That I want to aim for. We've got a product that is professionally crafted. I am a professional writer. Xeviuss is a professional art director. Joe has worked for Marvel, DC. He's worked for some of the best. This is literally, people say, oh, well, I'm an amateur. I am not an amateur. I'm new at comics, but I'm not an amateur. I can write a story. I can tell a story. I can give you a great story. You want a great fairy tale? You want a literary opiate that's going to get you craving and make you want more? Come and get it. I got it.
All right. So in this book here, Sins of the Fae, is this a graphic novel, or is this an opening chapter?
Both.
Okay.
Sins of the Fae is a graphic novel. It's chapter 1 of the manuscript is basically what you're describing here. And that's what's good. And that's why I say, like, people are like, well, how many of these could you make? I'm like, I could make this for 20 years. I have 5 manuscripts of 17 chapters apiece. This is 1 chapter of 17 in book 1.
You could definitely keep it going. Is there enough closure in it, though, that if somebody said, I feel complete buying this book, or do they go into it knowing that I'm going to have to buy the next book if I get into it?
No, I mean, it's going to be completely enjoyable from where it ends. At the point that it ends, it's sort of like it's going to be, I guess, episodic almost, like a good series, right? Like the way that I write chapters, the way that I've always learned to write is you pose a question at the beginning, you answer a question at the end of chapter 1 and ask more. So that leads them into chapter 2. You answer some questions, then it asks more. You go into chapter 3. And that just kind of continues. And the same thing happens here. There are questions that are asked that she's asking herself. She's like, how do I get through this? How do I make it? How am I going to fight this? That, you know, what's coming? How am I going to do any of these things when I don't have the ability? You answer those questions, and then you know, in the process of that, she's got to take on some responsibility. She learns that, you know, there's a destiny that she never wanted, a past that she ran away from. She's got to face that now. How's she going to do that when she's got 2 kids? She's a mom. She's, you know, a whole life that she's built. But you know what? She's not ready to give it up. And are any of us?
All right, all the Campbellian questions that make for a great heroic epic, right there in one statement. So, is this a Comicsgate project?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I have to ask, you know, because, you know, I've talked to a lot of crowdfunders. Some of them are Comicsgate, some of them are not Comicsgate. Some of them think they're Comicsgate, but now I guess they're not Comicsgate. I don't know what the nominations have schismed off in the last week. Has declaring it a Comicsgate project impacted you professionally in any ways?
I don't think
positive
so.
or negative?
Oh yeah, you can go ahead, do it. Go ahead, dude.
So for me, I mean, you know, people, the winds changed. They changed a lot. There was a schism last week. There was one in, what was that, back in July? You know, things come and go. But I've always been a very hard line that if I hadn't discovered Ethan's show about 2.5 years ago, you know, he'd be like pushing a shopping cart around Michael's buying pens and paper. I just thought it was charming. It was silly. He had no followers. Cyberfrog wasn't even on the horizon yet. So I owe it to Ethan and Zach that I'm even involved in this community, that I'm even on Twitter. So I'm Comicsgate for sure. There, I just wanted to say that. I think it's been 99% positive, I think. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think it doesn't matter. Like what I think of Comicsgate is that it's a network of individuals that want to help each other promote, find, create whatever, you know, independent comic books and materials. And that's all that it is when I consider it. All of these other things I just don't care about. Like okay, it's got, you know, if people are going to associate me with a bad label, then they're going to find another label if you're not Comicsgate. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
So what does it matter? I would rather just be like, am I Comicsgate? Yeah, I'm a part of Comicsgate. It's a network of individuals that want to sell comics. Do you like comics? I got a comic for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the purest form of the philosophy as it was originally expressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be, I'm not going to, I don't care, you know, what creed, color, ethnic, you know, origin, flavor, whatever you come in. It doesn't matter. If you like a good story, I want to sell you a good story. That's what I've got.
And it definitely look. I love what I'm seeing here. All this art that's going by here is just this is my kind of art.
Yeah,
I don't know what you would call it, but you know,
I don't know.
I don't know much about art, but I know what I like.
Well, I gotta say, like, my background, fine art and comics and Star Wars posters, Blade Runner, like, you know, I'm watching that all the time. You know, I've got one screen, I'm working and coloring. I've got a movie playing with the sound off on the other side. It's I really like color, but Warhol, oddly enough, is my inspiration. So I'm bringing that to comics, and I think it kind of shows in a bizarre way, along with Joe's lines. So I'm glad you did it, man.
This fire is just like jumping right off the page here. Should have invited Joe on here with us. It would have been.
He's got a 3-month-old buddy. He's got a brand.
Yeah, he's got a young baby. He's got like 5 cats, a few kids. He's still in lockdown, so I think he's a little stir crazy. And he's in Mexico, so like his times are a little bit different.
Yeah, he's tough to track down.
How did lockdown work for you guys? I mean, did you find it as a way to put more time on the comic, or did it detract from being able to get things done?
I think we got more done.
Well, you know what? For me, I work 18 hours a day a lot of the time. You know, I'm stuck at home. So the only thing lockdown has done, it's made me a little bit nuts because I don't have I like getting out to the pub for a couple hours after work throughout the week. So living now with no day, no night. There's a podcast going on 24 hours a day. There's a stream to go on to. I can work on something. I'm working East Coast, West Coast, client in Australia. It's
Hello?
Uh-oh. Did he cut out again?
No, I didn't click a thing. Yes, he's muted again. He muted, and I didn't.
Oh,
I'm not even touching the mouse. I'm like just staring right at the screen. Okay, well, things are bad for X right now.
Yeah, he went out. Did you kick him out, or did he go out?
I did not kick him out. I did not kick him out. We still got his screen up here. The art. Well, we did have his screen up here. The artwork.
Yeah, I told him that he was. I said, I think you're excommunicated again.
Device is not connected. Here he comes. Still says device is not connected. And now devices are connected, and now I can add him to the stream.
Are you there, X?
I didn't touch anything, I swear.
I believe you. No idea. No idea.
Yeah.
But you had a client in Australia, and you went to him. It was.
Yeah. So, I was just saying that things are very, sleep schedule for me is way out of whack. How about you, RJ? Is this affecting you?
I have a day job, and they have decided to not furlough us. We all work from, it's IT, so we can all work from home. They've started going back on June 1st for essential personnel, apparently, which I'm not. And I think a lot of companies are finding out that, as far as IT goes, they don't need to be occupying nearly as much of a footprint corporate-wise as they thought they had to. These people like me can work from home, which is fine if I have the right setup. I've been, it was a thing where it's like, everybody go home, don't come back till we tell you to, take your laptops. Well, fine, I got my laptop. But I'm used to a 3-monitor system with a docking station and a full-size keyboard and a mouse. And for the last 2.5 months, I've been like this, trying to do work on a tiny screen. Like, this sucks. Let me bring my monitors home at least.
I haven't stopped working.
Yeah. No, we're all lucky because I do this full time. I've never had a real job. I basically, after college, just been art. No break.
If it makes a check,
you
got a job. Working for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. A blast.
So you're not just doing those Sins of the Fae, though, right, buddy? I mean, you've got another book. I think I saw it on your.
There's another. Yeah, we have another book called Sway, which X really loves, and we've got probably one of the best covers ever. It is done by a guy that normally requires for a cover like that $10,000, but he's a friend of X, so he did it at a decent price.
Okay. Is that book out already?
Sway? No. We started to create some graphics and everything for it. The story's made, but I started to create everything for it. And then when we got into, we were going to put Sway and Sins out at the same time. And then we were just like a lot of things happened at once. And we were like, this is just too much. We can't do this. So then we went to just Sins. Yeah. And then we did just to Sins, and we're going to go back to Sway. That'll be the next book that I do create. But it'll, I want to take, that's why I want the audience to be not Sins. I went away from the IGG pre-launch audience because I wanted Blade Knight Productions. I'm like, Blade Knight Productions, the whole idea of it is, the tagline is cutting to the chase. We'll be think of it as a blade to cut away the chaff to get to your dreams, and that's what we're doing. That's what we want to do. We want to make stories that inspire the next generation, because I don't think the stories that are out there today do that. I don't think that, like Captain Marvel and anything. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe for like little girls or something, they think it's fantastic. I don't know. But from what I'm looking, the way that I look at it, and as little sales as they create, I can't see that it has that much of a footprint, like a Star Wars or a Harry Potter or, a great fairy tale would have. You know what I mean?
It's weird. This is probably a hot take, but normally you would think that in an industry, the lesser talented people would be brought up by the better talented people.
Yeah.
Say, oh, look what I can aspire to, and I can become like them. In comics, we've had this influx of, and it's called the Cal art style or the Tumblr art style,
Yeah.
But it's been sketch art at the very best. And instead of, the sketch arts coming in and looking at, a George Perez or somebody like that saying, I want to do that. You're getting John Romita Jr., who's like saying, oh, is that all I have to do to get by? And they're bringing the better ones down. I mean, the JRJR stuff lately has just been phoned in. I'm looking at this Action Comics that I picked up today, and I'm not even an Action Comics reader, but my shop opened up again. I wanted to go spend money there. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, that's John Romita Jr., for crying out loud. What happened? Did he lose an arm? Was it his good one?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but a lot of the quality of comic books has gone down in art. I think it started in storytelling, and they didn't think people would notice because they're like, as long as you have a cover, as long as you have a great cover, it doesn't matter, And then people started, yelling about the cover. Well, as long as you have a, decent inside art, nobody cares. And now that's gone down. And now they're like, let's just replace the story. The stories are, I don't want to get too far. Like everybody says, they've never been apolitical, but in my personal opinion, it's never been as railroaded, as completely corporate, as completely by committee. Let's just do a checklist of certain social responsibility derivatives and throw it in the book.
It's complete agitprop now. I mean, it's
just, that's the right word.
It's not even.
I tweeted. I think, RJ, I had a look at your channels before I came on briefly. I think, did I see that you guys talked about Batwoman on another panel?
Probably, yeah. I mean, we talked about how she had quit the show. Okay,
yeah, good. So I just tweeted just a few hours back that she's left, and I picked up I found the casting call for the new girl, and the description was okay, well, she's going to be open lesbian, and she can kill a man with her bare hands, which is every other show, from Star Trek to every movie I've watched in the last 2 years has had tiny women killing 200-pound men with their bare hands.
Yeah. And the idea of Batwoman being an open lesbian, I have no problem with Batwoman being a lesbian. I think that's important to her character and her story. But when the superhero identity had to say, "Excuse me, I'm a lesbian," I'm like, okay, you're trying to hide who you are. That's why you wear the mask.
That's right.
You've just narrowed down the field of potential suspects of your identity to less than 1% of the population, although granted it is Gotham City, where every woman is apparently a lesbian, so you don't really have much.
There's like 7 in the show or something.
There are.
Everybody's a lesbian except her sister, and that we don't really know for sure because we just haven't seen her date anybody.
It's like She-Ra.
I see a lot of people on Twitter complaining about Picard, complaining about Batwoman, and that's fair. But I have to say, I've watched every episode of Batwoman, and it's just a terrible show. But I mean, I came back week after week because I don't want to sit here and toe the line and be like, oh, it's terrible, it's woke. I'm like, no, this is a terrible show, terrible scripts. It's badly lit. It's nothing is good about it except the message that they're putting out there, I guess.
And see, that's the issue. I think that's the thing, right? I mean, I was talking to Brian Edward Hill. I talked to him a lot on Twitter, and he and I exchanged DMs sometime. And I was talking to him, and I said, "Look, I'm like, my problem with these things is that, the only thing they do well is the message. When when this message is the only thing that's done well, then I know that's what they want to get across." And he was like, "Well, I don't think that's right. I think that you just think that, but the 90s had a message too. You just liked their message." And I'm like, "No, I didn't really like the 90s.
I was not an Image Comics guy.
Okay.
When the 90s hit and it was Image Comics, I was like, Image Comics was founded by a bunch of artists who did not know how to write stories. So you got poster books.
Yep,
sure.
I thought Spawn was good.
Eventually learned how to write.
I did think Spawn was good.
Spawn was good. Spawn was good. It had a story. It has taken this many years to. I like the fact that Spawn had this little countdown timer. I was like, okay, he's got a limited amount of infinite.
But he skipped it, and then he went back, and then he made up. They made up something. It was cool, but they made like a a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. It's like Houdini taught him how to use the cape and you know, made him like you could use the cape so you don't have to use the timer.
Exactly. And of course, you know, in 300, he hits 0 on the timer and just totally resets the whole thing, which you knew was coming. It had to happen. So
you know when Spawn lost me? When his cape and Angela's ribbons had sex. Okay. I was like, I'm out. I'm done. This is a little crazy now.
That would be like Doctor Strange's cape, which is a living thing, and I can't even think of a parallel in the Marvel universe. Just getting tumbled in the dryer together and coming out with a third piece of clothing that wasn't there.
I remember because they like, you know, Spawn and Angela were getting kind of close, and then all of a sudden it shows this like side panel, and you know, her ribbons and his cape are all intertwining and blah blah blah, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And they're like, what can come of this? And I'm like, I'm out. I don't care.
Super powered handkerchiefs.
It's like I'm no. So but you know, yeah, I mean, I was like, I didn't like the 90s. I you know, I'm more of like, I liked the 80s. The 80s had some really good stuff in it, and there was some stuff in the 90s that was okay. I mean, you had like there was like the Vertigo line was decent, I believe. You know, during that time they had some really good stuff, and obviously like Sandman and, you know, some of those some of those comics were amazing. I mean, you did have some real standouts, but the basic bubblegum chew it up and spit it out kind of fare I didn't like. You know?
Yeah. And Vertigo is back, by the way, and just as good as it ever was. It's not called Vertigo because they killed that brand.
Isn't it Black Label or something?
No, not even the Black Label, but the Hill House horror stuff from DC is.
Really Joe Hill, right?
Tough. Yeah, it's very Vertigo. A lot of the same Vertigo creators.
Okay.
And you can also go to like Dark Horse and get the Berger books, which are being edited by Karen Berger, go figure. And it's just like Vertigo was because Karen Berger was in charge of Vertigo.
No, there you go. I mean, like, you know, we never cared about who was in charge or what, if it was a woman or POC or whatever. You never saw them. Who cared? No. It was just, is the book good? Is it interesting? Does it say something that's different? Or does it have a different take on, even if like, you know, I mean, The Hero of 1,000 Faces, I mean, it's the same story told a million times, or really there's only, was it 7 stories, right? And, you know, in literature anyway. So, you know, it's like,
a million ways to tell it.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, and it, just like you say, there's a lot of ways to tell it. Can you tell it in a different way? Can you tell it in a way that, can you just tell a story? I mean, that's the thing is like, there are a lot of people that can write, but can you tell a story? You know, writing and storytelling are 2 different things.
Exactly. For me, the story is always going to be the thing. You know, if it's pretty to look at and the writing sucks, well, I may buy it as a poster book, but you know, I'm not going to come back for any more of that because I'd rather be entertained. It's bad enough, you know, that, you know, I'm spending what does this cost now? $3.99. Okay, $3.99 is not bad for a comic book. I'll still pay that. This was $10 for the 80th anniversary of Catwoman. For $10, you know, I could have bought, you know, a couple of DVDs from the vintage bin and come home and got a lot more entertainment out of it. Especially having browsed through here and seen some of the artwork that I saw in that. I'm like, wait, this was the 80th anniversary? You're celebrating with this? Had some great stuff in there. Naturally, they brought Jim Ballant back to do a pinup when he should have been brought back to do a story. And we just had Jim and Holly on just a couple of weeks ago, so I knew that he was in there. That's why I wanted to see the book.
Now, did you just buy that Catwoman today?
I did, just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, how is it?
I haven't read it yet. Like I said, I just thumbed through it.
I think it's one of J. Scott Campbell's covers that he did for it.
It was too quick. I didn't see. That'd be nice.
The cover here looks, I haven't seen it yet, but I think that's Adam Hughes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know he did some J. Scott, or J. Scott Campbell did some.
Yeah, there is a variant cover for with J. Scott Campbell and Sabine Rich for the 1960s version. That's what they've done. They've sectioned the whole book into 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they tell the story from like each era.
Okay.
Supposedly. They got pinups in here from Babs Tarr. I've got to see if they made her tan.
I caught that today. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, for some reason it was just a horrible thing that she made herself tan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a cool story in here that's got her drawn like the Julie Newmar style.
Yep.
I really like
Nice.
Yeah, dude, I think you just sold a comic right now to me.
the Catwoman of Earth.
You just sold a comic to me.
Okay, well, cool. Then I better stop. Because you also have Kelly Jones in here.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to not curl that to make it look any more distorted than it is, but unfortunately, that's how she looks.
Your name's covering it, but that looks pretty wonky. Is it messed up?
I'm gonna take.
Yeah, those breasticles look off.
Yeah, that's weird.
The expression looks weird too.
That's strange.
I don't know. When I think about it, I think this is really the only one that's got really wonky art to it.
No, that's pretty messed up. That doesn't look right.
That's pretty.
But it's Kelly Jones style.
I
The
don't.
rest of it's okay.
I don't get how that makes it past an editorial. It's just.
Well, X, you're assuming that editorial does anything.
Yeah, that it exists. Sure.
Was it is this Brian Hibbett? Isn't his name? That had the he had the 10 things that need to change like a long time ago, and one of them was that editorial for both Marvel and DC needs to be completely revamped because they're not doing a good enough job.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, sometimes I read a DC comic and I think that Dick Giordano is spinning in his grave, and Julie Schwartz, because something like Doomsday Clock, which DC just finished up. If Dick Giordano and Julie Schwartz had still been in charge and Denny O'Neil had been there would have been a Doomsday Clock banner at the top of every major flagship DC title, and something related to that would have been happening, because there was a lot of shit going on in that series that was spilling out into the DC universe, and it impacted nothing in any title whatsoever. So because of that, it can't even be said to have happened in the DC universe. It happened in a Elseworlds DC universe as far as anybody else is concerned.
Which makes it a lot less wanted. I mean, it's just like a what if comic book at that point.
Exactly, and they had the perfect. It should have been that year's Crisis, and I think maybe Jeff wanted to go that way, but I don't know if Didio stamped out a lot of certain things on it. But from the very beginning, it should have started with the end of Watchmen and John Osterman saying, I've renewed my interest in human life. I think I'm going to go create some. Ooh, enigmatic, dum dum dum. And then you jump right into Green Lantern number 40, where Krona is looking at the pale blue hand creating the universe. If you'd have told that story, that would have been impacting. That would have said, holy shit, Dr. Manhattan created the DC universe, and the reason it gets rebooted all the time is because he hasn't got it right yet. He keeps, screwing it up. Now, and that's the only way that the story would have made sense, is if he had created it and been there at the beginning of time. The fact that he arrived in the 2000s doesn't work, because now he's time traveling, and he couldn't time travel before. He could only see times that he'd been in and see them. But no, now he's back in the 1940s, and he's shoving things around and changing the time stream. Like, you can't do that. You weren't there to change anything. You can't travel in time. So it all kind of got kerfuffled somewhere along the way. That's my soapbox.
Okay.
Doomsday Clock. Go out and buy it from DC Comics. It'll be in trade paperback soon, guys.
Okay, cool.
You can buy it cheaper.
Exactly. Guys, we're just kind of gone into the rambling area here. When is Indiegogo going to be seeing Sins of the Fae launched on it?
We are launching with a launch party on Sunday evening at around 8 o'clock Eastern. That's in, 4 days. So
yes,
watch for us. What's the date on that, buddy? We've got that
June
set up.
7th.
Yeah, June 7th, Indiegogo, Sins of the Fae.
All right. You got multiple tiers already ready to go? I mean, or is it just like, here's the book and we'll do stretch goals as we go along?
We've got the book where we have 2 separate covers, and we're gonna have obviously, like, you have 1 tier for each cover, depending on if you want that, cover A, cover B, and then
Sure.
cover A and B, multiples of each, and then we have kind of a surplus kind of tier, which is a print. We're gonna have different prints because we have some of the most beautiful art available.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a lot of, like, we're gonna have certain prints that X is gonna pick out, and so it's gonna come up with, like, print pack, some cards, and both of the covers and a poster, and that's gonna be pretty expensive one. And then we have a retail tier, obviously, that's gonna have 10 of each cover and that kind of thing. And what else we had? I have the tier list here, actually. What else do we have on there? Retail, we have 10 copies. Tier 6, we have a print. Oh, and then we have just a print pack. We're gonna have, because like as I said before, we have some of the prettiest things. And if if along the way people are like, we want this, we want that, then we'll take a look at it. We do have stretch goals in mind. Some of the stretch goals are pretty basic. I mean, we bookmarks, cards,
sure,
different, maybe a different poster or. Well, what we want to do is create, because I'm a big RPG guy. I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons and Rift, in different games like Earth Dawn, that kind of thing. And so I actually did create the entire story. And it was one of the first things my line artist, when he read my first chapter, he said, "This could be a game." And I said, "Yeah, I built it like that."
No, when you mention cards, I anybody that does cards, I keep hammering the same idea out there because I don't have any control over anything, so I have to hope other people take my ideas and run with them. I know a lot of people will do the trading cards for their comic book, and they'll create all 9 of them. So like, hey, look, here's a sheet of 9 cards. It fits perfectly into a page, and they sell the set. And we talked about how crowdfunding, all the different projects, they should be trying to help each other. We talked about other people's crowdfunding because we're sort of an interconnected group. My thought would be if you could get any 9 project creators to get along with each other for at least 6 months. So I know it's a lot to ask, given how inflammatory the situations always seem to get. But if all 9 of them could create with their project 1 card, same format,
interesting,
and then reveal the fact that these 9 cards sold separately make 1 picture, 1 unified picture. Now you've got, well, let's see, I just got Sins of the Fae and Peregrine Wings of the Falcon. Oh, holy crap, these cards are going to go together. And if I go out and I get, Niobe and maybe Cyberfrog, then I'll get the rest of these things. They might be things I wasn't going to get before, but because I'm this, obsessive compulsive completist, I'm going to at least give them a look. And if I like it, then I'm going to get more cards and end up liking the comic book. I don't know if that's evil capitalist at work in me, or if it's a brilliant idea, or if I'm just smoking something.
But we're evil capitalists over here, so that's a good idea. Now, do you mean that you've got unique art on the front, and then they all, when you have all 9 of them, they make an image?
Exactly. It's like the X-Men cards were in the 90s. You'd get trading cards, and when you put them into your sleeve, your 9-card sleeve, you'd say, okay, oh look, it's all 9 of my cards, but it's actually Storm and Gambit and Cyclops all fighting Mr. Sinister in the middle here, fighting from around. So you get this 1 image. Here you would have 9 different characters from 9 different projects superimposed onto 1 image and 1 action scene.
I like it.
So you'd have to work together at the very beginning to get that drawn off, presumably by the same artist.
Yeah, it'd be really difficult. I mean, unfortunately, the biggest thing about the indie comics is getting together is really hard because we're all basically small businesses on our own. Each person is a small business on their own. And something like that, like a major collaboration, like I know there's a collaboration between, because when I was running Insider, we were actually the ones that pushed it, where Von Klaus and Jameson Cal getting together for their Shinobi Sasquatch and Monster MD. I know they have a collaboration. I think There was a couple others, but I mean, I think there's maybe 3 in all of like indie comics that I can think of. You know, and like I said, I would be, because of the way that especially my world, the whole story world for Sins is created. Like I said, anything can be there. I created it so that anything could exist in the world. So, you know, somebody like what is it, Martina's Lady Alchemy could easily exist in my world. She'd fit perfectly. You know, or go ahead. Next.
You know, I mean, and I'd love to do the pinup for that. And we could, I mean, frankly, you know, it's just a matter of time. You know, like she'd go for that. You know, that'd be no problem, probably.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few of those. You know, I think we still have stuff to figure out, and I don't think we have to have everything 100% sorted out. Like we've got an 8-week run on Indiegogo, and I think we're gonna be going around the clock on that thing. It's gonna be nuts. So.
Yeah, I mean, once you get it in there, we're just gonna hustle and see what we get. You know what I mean? And no matter what, like there's not, like I said, we have like 20 to 30 pages right now. It's gonna be 48. No matter what, I mean, you know, we're gonna put it at 500 fixed, because no matter what, like you're gonna get a book. If you buy into my deal, then if I have to, I will work overtime and pay for the book, and you'll get a book.
Yep.
And the fact that you're so close to the goal as it is with that many pages in it is going to result in a fast turnaround, which is going to engender.
Yeah, we want to do 6 months at most is what we're looking at. And in the midst of that 6 months, we actually we're going to send, because we do have most of it done. We're actually going to digitally print some books and send them out to influencers as like a promo packet, so that we, instead of hitting a lull in the middle of the whole marketing thing, we go up.
Okay. So
because that's when they'll get
websites that do comic book reviews. Wow.
Yeah, let's
think about that hard.
Let's find somebody.
I hope you can find some, because, you know, Newsarama, and there's Comics Beat, and there's, you know, Bleeding Cool will treat you nice, I'm sure.
Sure. Yeah,
yeah, they liked my writing. They reached out to me when Insider went away and asked me if I wanted to write for them, and I said I don't have time. I didn't have time for Insider. I don't have time for you.
So I'll tell you, without naming names, I asked a lot of important or interesting or people we all know. I asked a ton of people in DMs what their T-shirt size was today. So I've heard back a few.
Very nice.
And I'd like to think that in 2 or 3 weeks, those guys are going to have a full color, like, you know, the book with sort of, you know, the middle is going to kind of say end chapter 1 onto chapter 2. And I want to have people put it on camera and say, holy cow, this is a nice looking book. And they can actually read it.
Stephen did the bulletproof T-shirts, and he's got them on his own store. He tried to do a similar thing, getting shirt sizes, but I think he only tried to approach Blake Northcott, and I'm not sure that deal ever went through.
Okay. Ooh, so, there you go.
Yeah, I know why. I could see why he would do it. She does have certain assets, you know, that are
Blake's a very nice love to have Ron
present themselves very well.
And she knows this. We love Blake.
I do too.
So, all right, well, guys, we've gone well over our hour. Anybody catching the replay, thank you for coming in. The link right now is to, you know, Blade Night in the description. However, when the Indiegogo comes up, I will do my best to remember to go in and edit this video and change the link to point to the Indiegogo campaign so that you can click on that instead, unless you guys redirect your website to go there, which would possibly be a case.
Possibly.
So you can get back in there and get this thing funded. This is a good looking book that deserves a shot at being published.
Indeed.
So, with
that, we won't do that.
With that, I am going to end the stream, because I think everybody has decided to pop over and watch Billy Tucci over on EVS's stream right now. So Billy is going to has expressed an interest in coming to our stream next week. So we're going to find the date, put him on here, and see how that works out. If you liked what you read, what you watched here tonight, read here tonight. Okay, so I've just lost about 10 subscribers. If you like this kind of content, just people getting around talking comics, promoting comics, just BSing about stuff, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are 26 away from hitting our 1,000. Right now, I am saying that if you subscribe, if you're one of the next 30 subscribers, and you screenshot your subscription and DM it to us at Critical Blast on Twitter, we will happily send you one of these shiny hollow foil Critical Blast stickers, put it in an envelope with your name on it, and when we've got all 30 envelopes done up, we're going to shake them up in a bag and draw 2 of them out, and 2 of those people will win one of these signed and numbered limited editions of 200 hardcovers of Alice's Journey Beyond the Moon, which is yours truly's first published work, which I still have some copies. And these are signed and numbered on the inside by myself and by Lucy Wright, who did the artwork, which is throughout here. This is, well, it would help if I actually showed artwork when I talk about artwork, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
that's how that deal's supposed to go.
Cool.
This is, of course, the 3rd Alice story by Lewis Carroll, edited by me. It's not really by Lewis Carroll. We lied about that. But it certainly looks as though it were, because we've got all the Martin Green. We got all the notes to the outside, the annotations, just like the annotated Alice.
Nice.
Make it look, to give it verisimilitude. In fact, last story before I get off here. When I first learned that Telos was going to publish the book, and then I picked myself up off the floor after saying a few exuberant curse words, I contacted the local paper. I gave them a review copy, and then they came to do the interview with me at the library. And the reporter's first word was, "So when they found this Lewis Carroll manuscript, why did they come to you for the editing and annotation?" Mm-hmm. At which point I told him he had to throw out all of his questions because he just fell for the lie, which was part of the fiction, that I had written the whole thing. And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, I really believed that Lewis Carroll had written it." I'm like, "Well, good. That's what it's supposed to look like." Guys, it's been a true pleasure having you guys here. And when you get ready to do Sway, we'd love to have you guys back on and do our best to promote that. And anybody out there is working on their own comic projects and they would like to spend an hour here talking about it, hit us up in the DMs. We'd love to have anybody on who'd like to be here. Guys, we'll see you in Funny Papers.
Okay, thanks, RJ. Good night, folks.